Welcome to Ken Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. Be sure to check out our website, which is hancepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram as well. Best Storyteller Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you go back through our library of content as well. If you missed last week's episode, highly encourage you to listen to the conversation that the Chancellor had with Drayton McLean. It's fantastic. You'll love it. There's a lot of great interviews. So get in there and start digging around and listen to the back episodes.
Drayton was excellent. It was comparable to the Ed Whitaker. You know, that's two Texans that big time. And they both just common sense, good people, true gentlemen. And I think that anyone that's in business or, has any thoughts about being in business, they need to listen to those.
I sent a link to that episode to a couple of my daughter's teachers, and they both said, "This is great. I'm going to play this in class for ninth graders," which that was a pretty good idea. Let's get started with the saying of the day.
Saying of the day is Charles Schulz said, "You got to dream a little if you're going to get anywhere." And that he was the creator of Peanuts. It's much like my old saying of, dream no little dreams. But you got to have some dreams if you're going to get anywhere. And I like that saying.
It's that time of year with Christmas coming up. A lot of companies, a lot of families having parties. And oftentimes that means that Christmas bonuses are coming around. Did you see the story about some of the bad bonuses?
Yeah, I really got a lot of chuckles out of it. There were some bad bonus stories. There was one group, the bonus for the sales department was a book on how to make better sales, get more sales. That was your bonus, they should have given them a bonus plus the book, maybe, and that would help. But that one was just kind of mystifying. There a $10 Starbucks card. I would think a company ought to be able to do a little better than that. And that there was one that they had to go to a party bar, and they had to pay $25 to get in. Come on out. We're going to have the big Christmas party, and they had to pay $25 to get it. That's not really putting you up for a big bonus. And there was one group, one company refused to give. It said, not everybody believes in Jesus and Christmas, and so it'd just be wrong for us to give you. But we've got to stand up for what's right, and we're just not going to give anybody a bonus. And I'm sure they didn't win any popularity contest. It didn't make people want to stay and get more longevity with that company. My favorite of all the bad bonuses is that one company gave everyone Jelly of the Month club. And so you'll get a new little jar of jelly every month. That was the entire bonus to everyone, but everybody got the same thing. If I were president of that company, I'd be leery that somebody might put that jelly in my car, put it in my car seat or something. Jelly of the Month club. What'd you get for Christmas from your company? What kind of bonus did you get? Did you get $10,000 or $50 or, no, I got Jelly of the Month club. Good gracious.
Every month you're reminded how cheap your company is.
That's exactly right. It just makes them mad every month they get. I always think back, I get stuff from Harry and David's that almost always have pears. And I'm sure they got some pear orchards someplace. They'll have some great apples sometimes, but they always have pears.
And you don't like pears.
I'm not a pear guy. I love apples and other stuff they send, and when it's good. But I'm not a pear guy, and I look up lots of times, and they've sent me a box full of pears. And I wrote them a letter a few years ago and said, "Don't send me pears, please, don't." They kept sending them, so I finally gave up. They whipped me.
Re-gift them, give them to someone else, right?
Yeah, I ought to do that.
I know that your firm had their Christmas party this weekend, and I saw an interesting thing about the rudest things you can do at a holiday party. And I know there's one that strikes a chord with you, but some of the others are hiding a mess if you spill something.
Yeah, they had that. One of the rudest things you can do is if you spill some wine or food or something, trying to hide it. Mm-hmm. Just fess up and tell them, I'm sorry I spilled something. That way they help clean it up. one of the other rudest things is to bring somebody and not tell them that they got to prepare food and everything for everybody. My assistant at Texas Tech and in my law firm before, Linda Steele, she worked for me 22 years, and she always, 99.9% of the time, somebody asked her, will he do this or that? And she'd know. She didn't. And, but something always got her. If somebody had an appointment, she'd say, now, will there be anyone with you? And they'd show up with 3 people. And they hadn't told her, and she'd say, we're going to have to reschedule. and, she had standards, and I loved it. If they said no, we're not going to bring anybody, just me, and then they bring 3 or 4 people in with them. And what it does, it changes the meeting, and that if you're asked, who you're going to bring with you and everything, you need to always tell. I think it's, rude to bring someone to a party and not give the host or hostess notice ahead of time.
The day of this recording is Saturday, December the 17th. Monday's Ugly Sweater Day. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that, and that's Ugly Sweater Day. There's a lot of, people will have sometimes around Christmas, sometimes after Christmas, Ugly Christmas Sweater Day. And there's some truly good winners at the few parties I've ever been to where they honor the Ugly Sweater Day. And you think, who would have bought that? And there was somebody buying it just so they could have something to wear at the Ugly Sweater Day.
I can't picture you in an ugly sweater, holiday sweater. Just can't.
I just would not, I'm not going to be the butt of all jokes. Everybody take picture and send them out on the internet. And the worst thing you can do at a party, the rudest thing, is get drunk at the party. And that happens from time to time, that somebody will have too much to drink it. The life of the party, in their opinion, and others would not vote that way, but that happens sometimes.
I'm trying to remember, speaking of parties and dress codes and things like that, was it you that was black tie optional, that it was a hot button with you?
Yeah, because either make it formal, make it a tuxedo, or don't. But there's optional things. Some of them will show up with a, tuxedo and a black tie, and some of them won't. I think that's a rude deal from the host or hostess saying, well, it's optional. Then don't make it optional. Just make it business suit, business attire. I think most people I've ever talked to about that, they always agree.
Towards the end of the year, we often see a lot of projections in the real estate market. And with rates coming down last week, and they're saying that the real estate market's going to pick up in 2024 a little bit. But we have some things you need to know when buying a home.
Buying a home, Dallas Morning News had a good story Saturday about buying a home. Number one, get a pre-approved mortgage ahead of time. Do that. That way you can't just go out and start looking and say, well, and not qualify. And most of your agents are going to, they're going to emphasize that when you first start. And the second thing is hire an agent. Hire an agent that really works a certain area. If you want to get into a certain area, then get an agent that works, the area. And that some people have areas that they specialize in. And you're better off, getting someone like that. Also, you have to look at the price range. You get your mortgage approved, you get your agent, but then start looking at the price range, and don't look at those that if you're approved for a mortgage of $500,000, don't go looking at the $800,000 houses. You'll get in bad shape. There's a guy, a businessman, Dub Rushing. And Dub Rushing, he's now deceased. He played tennis up until his 95. Great guy. And he always said that at the menu in a restaurant, he looked to the right at the price. And if it fit the price, he'd look to the left, see what it was. But if it didn't fit his price, he didn't look to the left. He didn't want to know. And so that's the thing on housing, that you need to stay with what your mortgage rate approval is going to be. Stay with that and look in that area. And, there was a time about a year and a half, 2 years ago that you'd make an offer and you'd offer exactly, if they were asking for $800,000, you'd offer $800,000. Somebody buy it for $850,000. I mean, it was a hot market, and it slowed down some, and the interest rates have caused that. But housing, hopefully next year will pick up. But if once you get into that, people are paying on bridge loans to build the property, paying anywhere from 8 to 9.5%. Boy, it slows it down pretty fast. It makes you stop and think.
A lot of builders are offering a lot of incentives, though.
They are. And what happens with a builder, if they're a spec builder and some market changes on them, they got to get rid of those houses. They got to sell them and move on and look and see what the next market's doing. One of the greatest housing persons that I've ever known was a guy named Bob Perry out of Houston, Bob Perry Homes, and they're still operating. He always stayed on top of everything and would adjust to the market. And Bob Perry Homes, they were excellent. He was in Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, New Braunfels, Austin, and but he watched every market, watched it closely to see what new businesses were coming in. And he kept the newspapers. He looked at every newspaper every day in those cities, see what the headlines, see if there was something that's going to change the way people were buying houses in those areas. He was smart and did a great job.
A lot of people traveling during the holiday season, and there's changes that Southwest Airlines is making.
Southwest Airlines, a lady named Jaylynn Cheney, she approached them for large people. And she said that, she wore size 25 dress and weighed 300 pounds and was not real tall, and that it was uncomfortable for her. And, I admire her for speaking up. And she said, it's not good for me. It's not good for the person that's sitting next to me. And so if you call in and tell them your problem, that you're a large person, then they'll give you another ticket and they don't charge you. So that way, you'll have 2 seats and you won't have somebody that's squished in that middle seat. And so Southwest is to be commended on that. There was time that you had to buy that second seat. And so now, they go ahead and give you that second seat and try to accommodate all their passengers.
Boy, Southwest Airlines, in my opinion, has been the best run airline. They seem to be on everything.
I think it goes back to the culture. And Herb Kelleher was great. He designed it. He had a couple of wild turkey drinks, and that he designed it on a napkin. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, the triangle. He'd have them flying back and forth. And he borrowed some money, and he borrowed, some ideas from people and did different things, and he worked it. And one day a baggage claim guy told him, Mr. Kelleher, if we had one more person to help on loading and unloading these planes, we could do it faster. And I think we make more money when the planes are in the air. He said, no, well, duh, that's good. And so Herb did what he said, and the guy was right. And so he you can always get me at an airline or something, but I think that Southwest, I enjoy flying them, and that, but I get along with other airlines also. Southwest has come up with new ideas, and this new idea on person getting more than one seat, with time, I think you'll see others do the same thing.
Will you share the story? You've told it before, but it's such a good story about the time you were getting ready to check a bag and observed another passenger being incredibly rude to the ticket agent.
He was cussing and, just making an ass out of himself, but he was really berating the ticket agent, giving her a bad time. And she was so pleasant and she's so sweet and everything. And I got up there and he had left, and I said, how did you do that? you were so nice to him, and he was so rude and just made, claims and insinuations, and I was surprised you didn't hit him. And she said, no, I'm fine. And I said, how do you do that? She said, well, he's going to Austin, but his luggage is going to Toronto. And I always laugh. I think about that, about being rude to people, that they may have the last laugh.
Yeah, they got a lot of power.
That's exactly right.
They could make your week miserable.
That's right.
If they wanted to. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Next time you're traveling. Speaking of traveling, Carnival Cruise Line, they had an interesting customer on board.
They did, and they banned this guy and his wife for life. And Carnival, I mean, it's not like they're Silver Seas or something, and they banned him for life from ever cruising with them or sailing with them. And he had a fishing rod. He took a fishing rod, and he was up on the upper decks and was fishing. They were in a port, and he was fishing, and he took pictures of it and videoed it, and you see him pull this fish out, and he's way up there. I mean, he's like on the 7th floor, and he's reeling it up, and as he reels it in, it will go in the balcony. You can see it disappears and goes in, then it comes out, and it bounces all along the whole ship, and he caught it, and it was in port. It was a kind of a yellowish, greenish fish. I mean, it looked terrible. It looked like under no conditions would you eat that fish, or even touch it. And he put it on TikTok, and everybody got to see it. And Carnival traced him down and figured out who it was, and they banned him for life ever come on their boat again. I didn't know there was a policy you couldn't fish. I would never have thought of that because I'm not a fishing guy anyway. But so I would have never thought of it. But I was... After I read the story, then I watched that fish being reeled up, and it'd go in a balcony, bounce in there and then bounce out. You'd have to lower it sometimes. And
it's kind of like speaking of policies, the rental car policy, don't clean birds in car.
Yeah, there's an Amarillo. My wife and I rented a car in Amarillo, and they gave you a deal, and it said, do not clean pheasants in car. And is opening day of pheasant season. And as Susie said, someone sometime has cleaned a bird in the car. And, you get all the feathers out. I mean, that's nasty. And you can imagine the next person that has to clean that car, that they'd rather clean your clock than have to clean that car. But usually when you have an unusual sign, it means that someone has done that before, and they're trying to keep you from doing it. And so if you're in Amarillo or Lubbock on Pheasant Day, don't clean the bird.
Going back to the guy fishing on Carnival Cruise, boy, you find that out about a person. That's really all you need to know.
Yeah. You put that on an application. Have you ever fished on a cruise? Have you ever fished from your room? It just tells you a lot about them. And tells you wouldn't want to hire them. I had a kid one time, I was interviewing for a job, and I said, I was going along and asking questions, and he just had a lot. I said, when's the last time you smoked marijuana? He said, a week ago Tuesday. And I did, I just threw that out. It kind of, it kind of got his attention. He was like, golly, you wonder what the deal is on this.
It really wouldn't be a complete podcast if we didn't have a stupid criminal story. And boy, we've got one that's pretty funny.
We had a lot of stupid criminals. They were all together, and there was a bar in Memphis, Tennessee called Mugshots. And the bar manager and 3 of the waitresses got arrested on aggravated assault because one of the other waitresses was talking and evidently they thought flirting with the bar manager's ex-boyfriend. And a fight broke out, and she was assaulted, and they charged them with aggravated assault. And on their mugshots, it says, place of employment, mugshots. So that they had 4 of them had their pictures taken, and they were from Mugshots. And the bar, they didn't get to post those pictures. The bar closed the next week, and closed for good. And so the waitresses there didn't get any advantage from being involved in the altercation. It's crazy.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram. It is at the Best Storyteller Podcast. And check out our website as well, which is hancepodcast.com. If you'd like to send an email, we would love to hear from you. Send it to info@hancepodcast.com.
Thank you.